Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of JKL Media, your podcast all about pop culture and three friends hanging out together. I am Jesse Jackson, and it has been a while since I've steered the ship, so this feels a little weird. But as always, I have two amazing companions. I have Karen.
Hello, we trust you.
Thank you. And Lou.
Hello. I had to look around for a second there. I wondered who you were talking to.
Yeah. In fact, Karen is the first person that trusted me to drive the bus
That is
on.
100% true. I'm
Ah,
Yes.
storming the castle,
Yes.
ah,
So.
and we hardly ever went off the rail.
Oh, never.
hardly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every episode essentially. But you did such a great job.
So today it is my turn to pick the subject. After a great several weeks of talking about The Haunting of Hill House, I decided that it would be nice to just do a standalone episode. And a couple of last year, I was just looking for something to do, and I remembered that there had been noise about Michael Keaton directing a film. I'm a huge Michael Keaton fan. I loved him since Night Shift and Mr. Mom, and of course his Batman and the the miniseries about opiate addiction, where he was brilliant in. I can't think
Yep.
of the name,
Yeah,
but
and the
anyway,
McDonald's documentary,
yeah, oh
kind
yeah,
of documentary. That was
So
good too.
I pulled up Knox Goes Away, watched it, and was blown away by the film. And so since then, anyone who asks for, oh, what's a good movie to watch? I recommend this one. So I am really curious to see what you guys think. So, Karen, let's start with you. Quick thoughts.
So good. I got choked up a couple points in the episode, and I'm just really glad that you turned me on to this movie.
Oh, good. Lou, how about you?
Yeah, it was a good movie. Had an interesting feel to it. It felt almost like an indie movie. It felt like a passion project. Michael Keaton is always good, of course, and one of my favorite types of movies is the one with the unreliable narrator, and this one was in my wheelhouse because of that.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about why I like this movie so much. I think one, I'm confused the whole movie about what's going on. Two, I'm a little bit surprised that the direction it takes. And three, I'm a sucker for a redemption arc, and this is a very unusual redemption arc. So yeah, I think that is the reason why, and I'm really glad you guys enjoyed it. This is going to be a tough one to discuss. So I'm just going to bring up thoughts and then we'll do our patented, we're going to go all over the place, but we'll end up getting there somehow. The premise is very simple. Michael Keaton is Knox. He is a contract killer. He, in his mind, kills mostly bad guys. In fact, there is a point in the film toward the end where he talks about the number of civilians he had killed and he remembered them. That's how much it bothered him. And he is told he meets his partner at a diner and there's signs something's not right. So if you guys can go back, the diner scene where he asks for coffee and then he asks for coffee again, he goes to the wrong car. Lou, because we know the premise, but did you catch those kind of points when you started the movie?
Yeah, because I knew the premise, I was watching for those early signs of him misremembering things, and that stood out to me right off the bat. As a general comment, though, these kind of quote unquote redemption movies always bother me in a certain
Yeah.
degree because it's like the Darth Vader thing. Like he killed all these young Jedi. Here we have a hired killer. There's no redemption for people like these. We might feel good, or we might get a good feeling that they're doing something good with their life, but he's not redeeming himself. To me, that's just that he's not paying the price. He's not even with the house in terms of the scales of justice. But it's still, you can't help but empathize with the guy because we're normal people. I don't know, like it'd be funny if another contract killer would watch a movie like this and say, "Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit," or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I just wanted to get that out there before we got too far down the rabbit
No,
hole.
I'm really glad you did. Karen, thoughts on that and the initial beginning?
Yeah, I hardly ever do this, but I completely disagree with you, Lou. I think there's a place for people that do things that we don't see. And I would hope there'd be someone killing traffickers and pedophiles and people like that. I don't think that they get justice in this world, nor are they caught often enough. And I feel like he was doing what some people would call the Lord's work. And I think that's the conceit that the film has, is that you can feel empathy towards him because he kills the quote unquote right people. And I understand it's a controversial take. I think that's what they were trying to do at least. But I don't know. He kills or his son kills the white supremacist. As far as I'm concerned, I'm glad that he's not taking up my air anymore. And I don't care why. And I don't know. I'm just one of those people that's like, why waste our time with people that do these horrible things and are just evil? And so I did feel for him. And I think that in his own way, he was trying to be a good person. And it showed that even doing that sort of thing and being that person was detrimental to his personal life. He didn't have anybody that he could count on. He didn't have people around him that he considered confidants, even Muncie, because Muncie always wanted to talk about the person that they were taking out, and he didn't want to. It just shows they were like a surface level friend, like a coworker friend. You have
Hmm.
those levels of friendship. And I felt bad for him. And I think that the way he went about the things in this film, I thought were commendable for what happened.
So I'm going to
If
let
that makes
you,
sense.
yeah, no, I'm going to let you respond in a minute. But what I said redemption is, I guess, to my thought was that he had no relationship with with his child,
Right.
and his child would have forever not would have not cared he's dead. And by doing this horrible thing, his son was in this place. And I think that the idea that his son ended up forgiving him, and that John loses his mind with the idea at least he did something for his family, not just financially, was the redemption arc I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
Lou, go ahead.
Hold on a minute. I also think that his son might have had regrets that he never reconnected with his father or talked to his father again. And I think this solved that problem as well.
Good. Lou, how about that? A
Good that,
debate, just a discussion.
yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
thing that we're not agreeing on this because it'll make for a better discussion. And
Absolutely.
I totally I understand Karen's position, and I guess yours to a certain degree, Jesse, as well, and probably agree with you more than Karen. But I find this eye for an eye justice mantra that, unfortunately, I'm going to say is a very American thing. I just
Mm.
totally disagree with
It's
it.
true.
I
Yeah.
totally disagree with it. If the rules don't apply to everyone, the then that is a failing in the system. And I understand in today's world that the rich seem to are getting away with what we perceive are a lot of things that regular people don't. Like
Yeah.
the two-tier level of justice is definitely an issue that has to be faced. But it, the story kind of does lean on a bit of a trope, like the gold-hearted prostitute.
Yeah.
Like we're supposedly dealing with a hitman that only kills bad people. I find that hard to believe, but
Sure.
I thought that was a convenience just to make us sympathize or empathize with the character. I have a question for the two of you because I was wondering during the interrogation interview with the police chief, he mentioned to her that he knew her father. I'm wondering, is that one of the two civilians that he killed? Because she said he was killed in the line of duty. Did you guys twitch on that at all, or did I'm curious about your thoughts about that?
No, I don't think he was. Because he did mention that
Why would he bring it up though?
because he remembered her father
Yeah, but how would a hitman know a cop?
by being arrested a million
But
times.
then
Or
they would have a record, right?
yeah.
Yeah, he had a record.
She would have looked that up. No, he was a military. He didn't have a record.
I
They had
thought
a
he
Yes,
was
yeah,
arrested before. Yeah, he was
well
in jail for,
for tax
yeah,
evasion.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So he was
Uh,
arrested. I'm assuming he was arrested for other stuff and not. uh,
yeah, I don't know. He had very little records, so don't know. That's interesting. I think it was just another sign to show that to give her a clue that something's wrong there. Yeah, how that's what I think. Just to show that and I assume her father probably had a very good reputation. And because he hung around with other, like the Al Pacino character and the others, the person who we never see the guy who is the one who directs them to give the kills. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting point.
It
I
is.
think at the end, when he's talking to the Pacino character, he mentions who they were, his
Yeah,
civilians, and he did not mention a police officer. But
the that
I
poor
like that
girl.
idea. I like that idea,
Sure.
And if that were true, does that make you more or less or no change in your sympathy for him?
So my sympathy is for the son's character.
He has
Feel
issues
so
That,
of his
much for
own.
him.
yeah, that he in one of the I think stand for those of you who hopefully are following along, the character Knox is diagnosed with an extreme form of, gosh, why now? See,
It's
Dementia.
I'm having,
Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is
yes,
essentially mad cow disease in humans.
yeah, and it is like worse than dementia.
Alzheimer's, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and the doctor tells him he has weeks, not months. So from the very beginning, you see he's losing his memories, and his son comes to him in the middle of the night at first. John doesn't recognize him, and his son says, I've killed someone, and we've already sorted to dust. This is absolutely wrong what his son did. You can't take the law in your own hands, though I do understand this known pedophile seduced his 16-year-old daughter, got her pregnant, and she says it wasn't rape, but I'm sorry if you're an adult and it's a child, it's rape. And he, in a fit of anger, kills him, and then he goes to his dad, who he does know kills people for a living, and says, fix it. So my empathy, while Michael Keaton is our main character, is I think when I find the most emotion is the scenes with his son and the different things. So, Lou, let's talk about the relationship between John and his son
It's
and kind of,
interesting.
yeah,
It's interesting that you brought that up because I have to admit, I've my initial impressions of James Marsden as an actor go back to the X-Men days. So I was never really a big fan of him. I thought he was another pretty boy
yeah,
Henry Cavill kind of guy. He looks good, but he's a block of wood kind of actor. And I have to say that I've been more and more impressed with him every time I see him. And I think he's the standout actor in this movie. I thought he had a very difficult role to play, and he had to remain sympathetic, and he did. And I've just been super impressed with this guy. He was really good in Paradise, that
yes,
miniseries.
he
Everybody's
was.
Mm-hmm.
seen that.
Yep,
So he's come a long way. And he was good in Westworld too. His character was a
yep.
little more contained, I guess you could say, but he did a good job in that too. So I was really impressed with him in this. And his whole relationship with his father is structured in a way that you can't help but to empathize with him, even though the dude's seriously got problems. Like it was bad enough that he killed this white supremacist, but he attacked that guy at the coffee shop. Like that
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
unprovoked.
Yeah,
So whether this is residual anger because of the fractured relationship he had with his father. I'm no psychologist, but that's my Lucy is in 2 cents worth of this there. But I'm hoping that the sacrifice that I'll put that in quotes too, the sacrifice that his father made will diffuse his anger, and then he'll be able to live a normal life. Though you would have to think that as a normal person, that killing that guy would eat away at you day after day. See, again, it's this whole getting away with it mantra that I'm not comfortable with it. I understand the James Marsden character had the totally empathetic position that any parent or father would relate to. Even Michael Keaton says it's too bad you killed him, because otherwise
If
I'd
you had
kill him
buried
again.
him. Yeah.
I'd dig him up and kill him again. They're tapping into some very core emotional dynamics that parents could understand. But the 10 commandments are still there. It says thou shalt not kill, and he should pay for that. I guess I'm an old fuddy-duddy hardliner when it comes to that, but if you commit sins, you have to pay the price. And we'll get to it later on. I do like how the overall premise of the movie works for me, because the end result is not without a price. And I've said that many times. I like a story where the hero, or the conclusion of a story, the heroes are victors, but they don't get off scot-free. And I really like that aspect of storytelling, and that was done pretty well here as well.
Karen.
Yeah, I'm gonna pervert something real quick here. I feel like, to me, it's the needs of the many over the needs of the few.
Doing a
Because,
little Star Trek on us. Okay.
yeah, but I'm turning it a bit
That is a
because,
perversion. Stop.
no, listen, that guy was a pedophile and he was ruining the lives of many people, and killing him stops that from happening. And traffickers are going to hurt people. Just, there are bad criminals that get away with stuff and end up like killing people, ruining people's lives. They damage more people than just one person dying. And I am so sympathetic with your beliefs and all that. I get it 100%. That's just where I'm coming from. Is I'm glad that one person died instead of them doing this to more people. So, I'm sorry, we were talking about James Marsden, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the idea, and I love
I
the
love that
idea.
we have
Yeah,
different
I do
opinions
too.
on this. I
And
really
also, I
do.
think also that how I feel about a movie is not necessarily how I would feel in
Right.
real life.
Though I do feel that way in real life
Yeah,
too, but it's heightened for a movie, definitely.
yeah,
And you have to wave it away sometimes if the medium is good enough,
yeah.
and just say, look, it's good. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
I'm not gonna worry about that, because Marsden didn't really kill anyone that we know of.
Yeah. Go
We'll
ahead.
see.
Go
I
ahead.
know
Yeah.
James Marsden from those things, but also things like 27 Dresses, and most of all Enchanted, which I've seen a million times. I just love that movie. And I think it's funny that you said he was the handsome guy that's like a block of wood, because that's literally his character in Enchanted. He's the prince that has no depth.
Really? How funny.
Oh yeah, he's the prince that's supposed to be with the main character in their cartoon world. And I don't know if you guys know the premise of Enchanted at all.
No. Okay.
Okay. So the cartoon world, the kind of Disney world, gets brought into the real world
Yes.
because this, okay, sorceress, played by the great Susan Sarandon, brings them into the real world. And it ends up that she realizes that she can't be in love with James Marsden character because he is so one-dimensional. And so she falls in love with Patrick Dempsey's character, who, hello, swoon, I love Patrick Dempsey. And he ends up getting together with Idina Menzel, her character in the movie, because her character is very strong and is okay with being with someone who is just a milk toasty, because then she can be in charge. But anyway, I thought him in that movie was the turning point for me. I liked him in the X-Men movies. I thought he was good.
Yeah.
I actually liked him in 27 Dresses, although he is that character. He's the leading man that just he has some charisma, but the
Yeah.
girl ends up carrying the movie. And
You
in
know what really won
Enchanted,
me over with him
what?
was his stint on that reality TV show, Jury Duty.
Jury Duty. Yes, he was
I've not
great in
watched
that.
He
I've not
is
watched that.
excellent in
Is it
that.
worth
And
He
watching?
is.
oh, it
Yes,
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
100%.
And he plays the arrogant, entitled Hollywood actor to the T.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Yep.
but the show really
He's
works
essentially
because the
himself
guy
in
that
that.
they're what do you call that? The lead guy that doesn't know that it's not real. What do you call it when you're punking him or whatever the term is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a really decent guy. Like really, if he was a bit of a dick or something, I don't think the show would work. But the real person that didn't know it was a fake jury,
Yeah.
he's just so good in this. But James Marsden just
Oh
he's
yeah,
so funny.
great.
He's so funny. I
Yeah,
thought, wow,
that was great too.
yes,
Really,
yes,
honestly. I highly recommend Jury Duty as well. It is
Okay.
fantastic.
Good. All
And
right.
it's something that we don't see. It was such an unusual and interesting premise. But
yeah,
anyway, I feel like James Marsden had this in him from the beginning, but he was only as good as the material he was given, I think.
Yeah.
And as he grew and became, he's still handsome, incredibly handsome, but he's gotten older and people were like, okay, let's take a chance on him. And I really do think that he has grown into an incredibly good and underrated actor. And I agree with you, Lou. I thought, hey, he's good, he's handsome,
Yeah.
he's okay in all these roles. But when he really came out, I think Westworld for me was a turning point because that it took some skill to play that character. And he was sympathetic to me in that, even though you're not supposed to really have feelings for them, for the
Hmm.
side characters at least, right?
Yeah.
I thought he was good. I think it's funny that he was also in Brandon Routh's Superman Returns because that's who we thought was that block of wood as well. He was very much a block of wood in Chuck. And I think that he's also grown into a really good actor as seen on Legends of Tomorrow. I thought he was really good in that too. But anyway,
Yeah.
James Marsden, go ahead.
I
You
don't know.
gonna say? Okay. James Marsden in this, I get where he was coming from, overreacting to that guy in the coffee shop. Yes, it was unprovoked. He's been pushed past his limits, and you have to. I felt so bad for him, for how he must be feeling, how murderous he must, literally murderous. That's a term we use for someone who hasn't killed someone, but
Yeah.
they're pushed past the point of being rational. And to be a father in that position, I just cannot imagine. I could see it more from the daughter's point of view, which was heartbreaking, just heartbreaking.
Because in her mind, this guy cared
Nothing.
about her.
He said, "Do you didn't tell on him?"
Yeah.
And
Because she's a
that
child.
right. And
Yeah.
that again, it just reinforces the fact that she couldn't make an informed
Yeah.
decision, and that is literally rape.
Yeah.
And I felt everything for James Marsden in this movie. And I think he got most of my sympathy, definitely. And I think that I hate to say this because he's had a good career, but I feel like he's got a lot of stuff ahead of him if he continues on this trajectory, that there could be some really great roles he takes.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any bad acting from him in this. And Paradise, wow, he really gave a lot to a role that could have been a nothing
Yeah. I agree.
role.
Absolutely. All right. It's hard to say that when you have Al Pacino in a film, he's not one of the leading characters, but he isn't, though we'll get to him in a minute. I think we have Knox, we have his son, and then we have Detective Emily Akara,
Mm.
played by Susie Nakamura. And I adored her character. I thought she was smart. Her and her partner played back and forth with each other. They do not do a they do a, I think, a clever of showing that her mother is probably facing a similar kind of disease, not as
Yep.
there, because arguing about she knows the doctor, she's fighting about medicine. And I think that the scenes between James Marsden's character and her are also really strong. Lou, thoughts on our detective and the interaction she has between Miles and John?
Yeah, I really liked her as well. She's good at her job, and she's sarcastic, but she's fair, and she's not above a little bit of ribbing, like she's always saying to the ribbing her, I guess, left hand or right hand man. She's, why is it always a guy?
Mm.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny. And then the revelation that her mother, who she never had a good relationship, is going through the same thing, whereas her father, who she had a good relationship, was killed in the line of duty. So she's quite a sympathetic character too. And in that aspect, I think because of the relationship with her parents, she probably didn't question the setup nearly as much as she would have otherwise, where Michael Keaton's character, or Knox, planted all the evidence. So my first reaction was when they were starting to go through the evidence, saying, because of this and because of that and because of this, none of this evidence was initially there. It was all planted. I was going, geez, I've seen a lot of their TV shows where when they've done that, they've gotten away with it and they never caught all those things. So I thought that was an interesting twist on that, a trope, actually. But I also think Mike Knox went out of his way to make sure that the evidence was tainted. Six of one, half a dozen the other kind of thing. So I thought that played out well. And this scenario is emblematic of the whole movie. It's very low key and understated. There's not any big major action sequences. And one action sequence that we get ends in quite the shock. But the whole tone of the movie is very understated in that aspect. And whether that was Michael Keaton's intent or he was working probably with a limited budget. How many studio credits was there before the beginning of this movie? I think there was at least six or something like that. So it sounded like he had to cobble a lot of investment
yeah.
from various places. Getting back to the lieutenant, overall, I think in summary, her situations, her scenes played out very much emblematic of the overall tone of the movie, but I thought that she did a good job. I can't say I was as high on her staff like the other detectives in that.
Yeah,
They seemed like B-level actors to me, but
yeah.
they didn't really have a lot to do. That wasn't a big deal, but yeah, she was very good.
I liked her main partner, Detective Rael, and the relationship they had between each other, where he would say things like he said, "Hey, someone had to turn off the shower," and they're, "Oh, good catch." And they look at each other, and he's not taking credit for her thought. He's flat knowing. And then later him calling back to her, "Why is it always got to be guys for you?"
Yep.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I thought they had a good relationship. Karen, any thoughts on our detective?
Yeah, I like this actress, Susie Nakamura. She was in Avenue 5, which I feel like was very overlooked as a show. It was like Space Force, which I also liked. But Avenue 5 with Hugh Laurie, she was really good in that. She's been in a lot of little things. Go On with Matthew Perry back in the day. She was on that as well.
I
But
liked that.
me too. I thought it was really good. But I feel like she's a really good actress. Again, underrated. She needs to be in more things. She was in Curb as well, but I didn't watch Curb or Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that. I thought she did a great job, and I feel like all the people around her, except maybe her partner, were very lackadaisical.
Yes.
It shows cops as being like lazy and not really interested in doing anything. But she and her partner, I don't think they're shown as like the saviors, like the white knight kind of cops. They're shown
Hmm.
as just regular cops.
Yeah.
And I really did like that. And I do think that, as Lou brought up, that Knox made sure that the evidence pointed to him 100%.
Yeah, I think we'll get to that in just a minute. In
Yeah.
fact, that will be our next category. You
Okay.
know who she reminds me of too, and I apologize for this kind of almost cliche, but in Daredevil Reborn, there's Detective Angie Kim, played
Mhm.
by Rubio Kwan, and it's similar type character, someone who's really sharp and good. So while I watched the movie the first time, I was confused about what he was doing. And
Me
Knox
too.
is Knox is going through, he's washing the clothes and then he's re-putting the blood and he's moving all these things. Karen, any word you just said you were confused too. When was there an aha moment when they arrest James Marsden? He's confused as hell what's going on. And then he and his dad have that fight where he's, Dad, what's going on? And he just, all he tells him is, you set me up, you set me up. So was there that aha moment when all this came back to roost, so to speak, and there
There
was a
was
method to his madness?
there were a couple aha moments in this, I thought. Number one, I was wondering who is he setting up?
Yeah,
Because the parts that they show of like him putting the knife in the air vent and all that, I didn't know what house that was in. It didn't really ring as something that we had seen in the movie already. Who is he setting up? Is he setting up his partner who was dead already? Is he planting the evidence in his own house or
yeah,
so I had no idea until they said that they were searching his house and they showed them finding all this stuff. And then I was also confused about why would he do this? What is this plan? I don't understand because it seems like he went to great lengths to make sure everything pointed to his son. That's what it looked like to me.
yeah,
And then he has that fight, and I thought, is that dementia that he's not
sure.
remembering that his son didn't set him up? And then when she says, when she and the detective talk about the other detective, her partner, they
Yeah,
talk about the fact that all the evidence points to Knox and not his son. That's when I went, oh, I get it. And it wasn't really an aha moment. They showed it to me.
yeah,
For the first time in a long time, I was really like taken aback. I'm like, okay, now I get it. And it was at that point, everything else fell into place. The fight that he had with them was to set up this whole thing as well, was to make sure that they knew that he had a motive for setting up his son, knowing that he's dying
yeah,
puts his stakes much lower. And he hadn't shown anything in his conversations with the Al Pacino character that he was setting himself up. It sounded to me like he was setting up a hitman coming to kill him through Al Pacino. That's what it looked like to me.
yeah,
And I think that was the whole point, that they were really doing this in order to make me fall into this trap of thinking one thing and then being totally surprised that he has done this selfless thing in the end. And yeah, I was surprised. And yeah, there was an aha moment, but it was an aha moment going, "Oh, I'm an idiot." Kind of aha moment, which it's rare for me that I don't anticipate what's happening. And that is, I love that when I'm reading a book too, a
yeah,
mystery book, and something comes out of left field and there's this huge twist. I really do enjoy that. And I thought this was fantastic. It didn't make me feel stupid.
yeah,
I'll clarify that.
yeah.
But it does do this thing where it's, wow, that really surprised me. And that makes it that much better.
Lou,
Yeah, this is the strength of the unreliable narrator type of story, using the dementia as the tool to play with that storyline. I didn't have an aha moment at all. I was totally caught off guard until the evidence revealed, which is why I mentioned it. But I did have a WTF moment, is that when he grabbed his son's glass and put it in the bag, I said, because up until that point, I thought he was creating evidence to incriminate himself. And I'm going, says,
Yeah.
why is he taking his son's glass? I don't get it. And then when
Mhm.
he used the glass to put the fingerprints on the knife, and I said, is his dementia gotten so bad that he's confusing his plan? Is he getting it
Yeah.
all messed up now? Like I wasn't sure. So I thought that was really well played in this movie. And like Karen said, it's not often that I get caught off guard. I started to get an inkling when he went to his son and started talking about him setting him up with the tax evasion story. I said, no, that wasn't his son, but that was given to him, his son, to use as an alibi later on. Though you would have think the lead detective would have said, no, I've looked into that case and you were not the one that did that.
She started to.
Yeah. Well,
Then he says, nope, it was me. And
Your file's wrong. And I guess the option is right in the back of her mind, either she doesn't care or she's
yeah,
saying it.
fits
Yeah, it
fits the
fits.
facts.
This gives a reason.
theoretically, he was a kid. He could have gone to whoever it was that was in the file
Yeah,
that's turning him in. So
Yeah.
there's some
wiggle room.
credibility there. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So that was it. So that whole evidence thing played out quite well. Though, as I mentioned earlier, I thought to myself, if you can see tainted evidence like this, why hasn't this ever shown up in other
Yeah.
movies where it's been the same kind of story, the plot, the line has been played out? But
Mhm.
yeah, I thought that was really well played.
Yeah, I loved the idea that, and after the fact, you go, oh, because there was so much evidence his son did it, that the only way he could ever get his son totally clear is if it looks like his son was set up. And
Yeah.
therefore, he knew he's going to die anyway.
Right.
So why not just go ahead and do this? And so the idea of I'm going to fake what really happened, but in a way that makes it look like fake is very clever. And which goes back to the scene with Al Pacino when Al Pacino says, this is a tough plan. I
Yeah.
could do this, but I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
Can you? And that's why I need your help. Just, and this is a movie that I've now watched probably 4 times.
Mm.
And each time and this time I watched it because we were going to be talking about it, but I find satisfaction similar to, and once again, we often bring this up, spoilers, watching The Sixth Sense, going,
Right.
oh, yeah, they did do this.
Catching things
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
you wouldn't have caught normal. Yeah.
Yeah. Annie, let's talk about Annie, and not quite a heart of gold, but it is something that they had a regular session every Thursday. They exchanged books. No, he shared her books, he paid her money. She's as close to a relationship he had, and she gets greedy. Lou, any thoughts on that storyline? And did you think he killed her before we got the reveal?
No, I didn't. I thought they would have shown it if he had killed her. The fact that they didn't was I said, okay, he let her go because
Okay.
he still felt something for her because of the relationship. I thought it was the best moment though was when he told her, says, if you'd have done nothing, you would have got a third. Now you were aiming to get a quarter. So that was a
Yeah.
nice line. And of course, at the end, she gets all his books, which I thought was very like a backhanded, here you go. This is what you ended up with. Yeah, yeah, that was a nice subplot. It could have been taken out of the movie without really impacting anything, but I thought it
Yeah.
was pretty nice. And but I do think it showed the budget constraints of the movie because the thugs that came in to assassinate him, they all looked pretty low rent. But other than that, yeah,
Mhm.
it was a nice little subplot. I don't think it was essential to the story, but just maybe helps round out the Knox character a bit more, show that he's not a total robot beyond family
Yeah.
relationships, that he still, like all of us, needs some sort of connection with other people.
Okay. Karen.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming either, her turning against him, because I feel like he intimated to her that she was going to get some of that
Yeah, but he was
money.
talking to his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she absolutely did. And she just did, she just couldn't, she
She
was
didn't
like,
get
no,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it made her look dumb, which I feel like it should have been telegraphed to me that she wasn't very smart because he was trying to enrich her by giving her books and all that. And when she showed up with those thugs, I was shocked. I thought, what are you doing? The,
I wasn't. When she took the picture, I said, "Oh, she's planning something."
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe she wanted that picture. I didn't, I feel dumb after all this. I really do, not getting all the stuff. There's stuff I watch and I feel smart because I have interpreted things before they happen, but in this case, I just don't. Although I loved it, that's not a downfall as far as I'm concerned. But man, I was really surprised by it, and I think he handled it very well. I love that he shows her, hey, you're an idiot. You would have had much more money if you had just stuck it out. All you had to do is do
Do
nothing,
nothing.
he says to her.
Yeah.
I didn't think he shot her. I think they would have done the thing where after the camera goes off of them, you would have heard a shot. I feel like that's how they would have done it. And then of course we know he didn't because she gets the books. And I think personally that he sent those books before that, before he had any inkling that she might have been double crossing him. We know he sent it before he was taken in,
Yeah.
but man, she did a great job too. I agree with Lou, it could have been taken out and the movie still would have been impactful. But I don't see any downside to it being there either because I think we got plenty of story in the main storyline. It didn't take anything away. And it was an interesting side plot. It was seeing that he had some kind of a connection with someone and almost like a mentor connection with a set of sex on the side. And I liked her until she started showing signs of being disloyal to him. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Al Pacino, very small part, but I thought really well done. I do question who eats Chinese food in the bathtub. That just seemed a little unsanitary.
yeah.
Like,
People do a
you
lot of
know,
things in the bathtub.
yes,
Women drink wine in the bathtub.
I could see
Oh,
wine, but
I
just
smoke cigars in the bathtub.
do you?
I don't smoke cigars, but I
Oh, okay.
okay, yeah,
smoke.
yeah. Any
Reading books.
thoughts? Yeah,
Reading books makes me raise my
Yeah,
eyebrows
I
because
listen
I'm
to
like,
podcasts and stuff like
that's
that.
different. You can't
yeah,
ruin a podcast in the
yeah,
tub.
Well, your phone could fall in the tub, though.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
True.
true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It
Any?
just every time I see a woman reading a book in the tub, I'm like, don't drop that, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a book.
Any thoughts,
I thought it was a
Karen
very, oh,
or
sorry.
Lou? Yeah. No, go ahead.
No,
I thought it was a very restrained performance by him, which is surprising because he usually has this big hurrah kind of scene,
Yeah.
and he didn't do that here. And I appreciated the restraint. Again, the whole movie is about restraint. That's probably due to Michael Keaton's vision of the movie because he directed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if those two actors are friends in real life. Maybe Michael Keaton called in a favor and got Al to do it for scale or something like that because he couldn't have
Yeah.
paid him too much. But yeah, and for the scenes that he had, Pacino has got the chops to make his character feel like a real three-dimensional person. He was always saying, "But you want me to do that? I am a criminal." I thought that
Yeah. I like.
was a nice
Yeah.
that was a nice touch, and the fact that he's had multiple wives and oh, he's not fooling anybody. Their relationship, he's telling the wife he's looking at the books, and he says, "Oh, he's upstairs watching TV and stuff like that."
Yeah.
Yeah, a nice little thing. You needed that character to keep Knox on the straight and narrow, so to speak. So it was a very good get for him, and it elevates the movie when you can get an actor of that quality to play that kind of part.
Yeah. I agree.
Sure.
Yeah. Karen.
I like this character a lot. Okay, again, people are going to hate me for this conversation completely.
No.
Al Pacino is hit or miss for me because I feel like he can be a caricature.
Yep.
And
I agree.
I think.
and
Yeah. We're
no, no, go ahead.
what we love to do. I think especially late career. I think
Yes.
that this is someone that it is hard for him not to play Al Pacino.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an issue for me. I mentioned recently to my boss that there are some performances by some really great actors that I grit my teeth. I loved Robin Williams, and I think a lot of people would say the genie is a really good role. I think he was just Robin Williams, and you can't see anything but Robin Williams in that role. He was very Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And I like him better in Dead Again and Dead Poet Society and all that stuff, but I did not love him in Aladdin. Some people do. And I feel like Al Pacino has that same quality. He's way Al Pacino sometimes.
Yeah.
And in this movie, he wasn't. He was the character. Javier, he was that character. And I loved his relationship and how Knox confides in him when he's not telling anyone else. He's not telling his ex-wife. He's intimating that he's going to go to prison instead of he's going to die. And
Mhm.
it ends up he does go to prison. The point was that he's going away forever because he's dying. And he tells Javier that he's going to die and he needs someone to ground him essentially to make sure that he's not falling into that dementia zone and he's actually going to do the things he needs to do. And I feel like there was a point where he could have said, "Can you just do this for me? Let me lay this out for you and you do it for me." But he didn't. He wanted to do it himself and he just needed that person to back him up to make
Yeah.
sure that things were getting done. There were a lot of little touches in this where he tells him, unlock your phone. And he reminds him later on, unlock your phone.
Yeah.
And he asks him several times in the same conversation, did you get rid of your notebook? Because if someone finds the notebook, then
Yeah.
everything's ruined. And he says again, he says, did you get rid of the notebook? In the same conversation, I think it's valid because at that point, Knox was not remembering anything. He had
Yeah.
to find him in the woods and all that. And he says, how did you destroy it? And he says, I burnt it. And that's how he understands, okay, he did it. Good.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is one of the only people he trusts wholeheartedly in the world.
And
And
the guy who was his money person even asked him, he said, "Hey, do I cut a little part for you?" And Pacino's character is no. Like he says, "I am a thief. You didn't
yeah,
tell me where you put your money in."
although I feel like Knox would have been okay with him taking a little
Oh,
cut,
I think
to be
absolutely.
fair.
Yeah.
But it's like when someone is vulnerable like that, it's easy for a criminal to take advantage. And it shows their bond in the fact that he says, no,
Yeah.
don't cut me in. Why would I take any of that money? I didn't earn it. Although I feel like he did. He did. He did a great service. He was good in. There's no one that did any bad acting in this. No one. I can't point to anyone that was a bad actor in this movie.
Yeah. Lou, did we get you?
Yep.
Okay. I think the last thing I want to talk about is the scene that almost wraps up the film where the detective is talking to John and John can't remember anything. And you realize maybe in some shows that would have been he's pretending, but this case, it's his dementia, his disease has gone full forage. And she's frustrated, she moves on, and then his son Miles is coming to visit him, and she's like, "Why? He tried to set you up. He did kill the man who raped my daughter," which is once again a reason why, but really Miles is going to say goodbye. And this is the scene that hits me emotionally. In fact, I'm tearing up even now. Is that absolutely Michael Keaton's character, John Knox, is a horrible person and a horrible dad. And for those of you not because we do audio, Karen just went, maybe not.
Not that bad. I know you
And
guys.
yeah, and then
He was a horrible dad.
and he talked about it's Sunday. And no, it's not Sunday. They're taking his son to the Rose Bowl. And his son talking about and Miles knowing what his father has done for him. My hope is some of that money goes to not only a college fund, which I thought was interesting. John couldn't think of that word that continued. Hopefully, is some therapy
Yeah.
to help his son do. But when they talk, I get a little emotional. And I think maybe because my mom had a touch of dementia before she passed at the nursing home and everything. So it's just a very strong emotional ending to this story that makes the movie work for me. It works for me because it's surprising. It's the I don't understand what's going on till the end, and then you go, oh, they showed you all along. And then we get a very emotional ending between a father and a son. Karen, thoughts?
Yeah, there were a lot of really little touches here that you have to appreciate. One where they did this before where Nakamura, what's her name? Nakamura?
Yeah, I
Nakamura.
think yeah.
Any Hick,
Yeah.
I'm
The
sorry.
detective. The detective.
Susie Nakamura,
Yeah.
what she does is she says, "How come it's always a man?" And then her sidekick says the same thing, turns it
Right.
around on her. And they
Right.
do this again at the end where his father had said, "Did you bury him? Because I want to go and dig him up
Yeah.
so I can kill him again." And he says that at the end to the
Yes.
detective. And I loved that his father, the whole plot of the movie is his father doing this
Yeah.
in a major way by turning the murder around on himself. And I love mirroring. I really love it. And when it's done effectively, it's great. And this whole movie was a mirror on itself.
Yeah.
And him saying that to the detective, me thinking also he's pretending with the detective. And when his son shows up, he's going to at least be somewhat lucid. And that wasn't the case. He was even worse with his son. And that scene where Miles puts his hand up to the glass and he knows his father, he's doing it for himself, essentially,
Right.
because his father doesn't appreciate it, but he understands this is my way of reconnecting. And if the only way to do it is to put my hand up, I'm going to do it. And then when he turns around, Michael Keaton puts his hand up. Oh my God, at that point, and I'm getting choked up right now.
Yeah.
That was so touching to me that even through him not remembering anything, he still had that kind of, it was subconscious probably, but thinking that he wanted that connection back as well. And talking to his son about his son, that's a major trope that, hey, I don't remember you, but I'm going to talk about you.
Yeah.
Saying that his son liked football and just the kind of satisfied look on Miles's face where he's, my dad's remembering good things. That's good. And he has that kind of, it's a smirk, but it's not a cocky smirk. It's a, hey, I
Yeah.
love you, Dad. I'm not going to ever see you again, but at least we did this and we repaired our relationship, and I can think fondly of you. Just there was a lot of meaning in that last scene, and that's the point where I thought, okay, this movie got me.
Yeah.
I'm tearing up, and I didn't do an ugly cry. I've done ugly cries with other things that we've talked about on the show, but this one was just like a, oh, my throat's a little scratchy kind of thing.
Lou.
I've never taken the Kobayashi Maru test. What do you think of my solution? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, those glass windows types of scenes, for me, Star Trek The Wrath of Khan, that scene trumps anything else that anybody else can do. So I just, every time I see that kind of scene, I just have to chuckle and say, I was just waiting for Michael Keaton to put his hand up at the two of them. And I thought, all you have to
Yeah.
do is the Vulcan live long and prosper sign. So that's a weird personal tick that I
No, I
have.
get
So
it. Yeah.
that any type of
No,
scene like that will just be undermined by that. So the father son conversation was what I was expecting. It was the inevitable outcome of the story. So that didn't really move me. And then that to put that glass hand on the scene kind of thing, that was just like what really got me, and was in a very satisfactory way, was him in the last shot of the movie standing at the window, just
Yep.
looking
Yeah.
out. On one level, I was waiting for him to do a Birdman and jump out and fly or try to
Mm.
fly or whatever. But
Yeah.
I thought, okay, this is what the subtext message of this story is. It's actually not even subtext, because he said it out loud to Al Pacino at one point. He says, I'm not even going to know if this plan works or not. So this is what makes the movie work for me, is that he did pull it off, but the price for pulling that off is that he doesn't know that he pulled it off. So that's what
Yeah.
I really liked about the movie. I think it's the price that he has to pay for the life that he lived. He doesn't deserve to know how these things
Right.
turned out. So for me, that's how I like the movie from that aspect.
I could
Very,
see that.
very well done story arc for this movie. It's his version of A Tale of Two Cities, I guess you could say, as he discussed with Annie at the beginning of the movie.
And that's the book she's holding
And
at the
as
end.
well, as
Yep.
well. So yeah, a lot
I
of
think
little
it was
nice,
meant to be.
absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
a lot of nice little clues in there. So that's what really made the movie work for me, and that was, to me, was the most emotionally resonant moment in the movie, is that the father-son goodbye. I just, when I saw that hand go up on the glass, I was going, oh, don't go there, please don't go there. But they did. I wonder when they were shooting it if they had a chuckle or two about that as well, because know how
Probably.
if anybody's watched any movies, how you cannot get past that scene from The Wrath of Khan. And okay, I'll save my other comments for final thoughts.
Yeah, my thing is the slow clap.
Yeah.
Anytime that
okay.
happens,
I hate the slow clap.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing that this movie
yeah.
couldn't rise above, and I have to mention, is jazz music. I'm sorry.
You're not
Nobody hardly ever listens to jazz music. It's a subculture kind of thing, but every thriller cop movie, the main character's into jazz. Even Bosch did it.
Mm.
Seriously,
Mm.
how many people? I got nothing against jazz, but it's so
I do.
overused. It's so overused in detective and thriller stories that I just rolled my eyes a little bit when they did that.
I
That's
gotta
fair
say,
enough. I liked the soundtrack.
it was okay. In The Good Place, the way that she can tell that one of the guys is a demon and is faking being her soulmate is that he treats her to a jazz thing, and she's no one likes jazz. And I feel like yeah, I get it. I'm not a huge fan. I like the movie Soul, which was essentially about jazz, but that's in a different way. I agree with you 100%. It's such a cliche. And it's almost like it makes the movie a little high on itself, thinking that it's noir when it's not noir. But it was so in the background
Yeah.
that I'm okay with it. But yeah, I agree with you 1,000% about the jazz thing. It supposedly sets a mood when I think a lot of other things would set a mood. Blues would be better, in my opinion. Jazz
Yeah.
is just who
Or
on earth listens to jazz except for people that are so friggin' pretentious.
I
You
wouldn't
know-
go that far, but it's just that jazz is not as popular as other forms of music. It's just the plain facts. There has to be other forms of music. I don't know if they could play like soundtrack music from another movie or something like that if you want to set a mood or something like that, but or compose
think that would
something
be problematic,
original.
but
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get Bear McCreary in to do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Jazz is way overused.
I really have loved this discussion, and I'm so glad you guys joined me to talk about this. Karen, any final thoughts and
I
wrapping us
love
up?
that we all disagreed on
Yes.
points in the movie. I love it so much because I think that this is one place where I can disagree with someone and not be afraid to do that because we don't judge each other.
Oh no,
for
of
it.
course not. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you don't kid yourself. I judge you for being Canadian.
There you go. Yeah, and I take that as a
Unfair.
compliment.
I do not judge. I don't judge you guys for anything. And I love that that's part of our discussions. I also think it does make for a much better discussion because it ends up bringing up controversial topics that our opinions color.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was not expecting to have this kind of discussion about it, but man, am I glad that we did.
Good. Lou.
2 points. First one, much as I mentioned with James Marsden off the beginning, Michael Keaton as an actor has really grown over the course of his career. I think back to like when he was in stuff like Night Shift,
Oh,
and,
such a
and
good movie, though.
stuff like, like he was a very sort of Second City TV type of actor, but he's really had a very smart career approach to his acting choices in that, and turned into quite the dramatic actor. He can play bad guys. I think it was in Pacific Heights. He was a bad guy in that movie. So he's shown quite the range. He's more than Batman. He's more than Beetlejuice. As Karen mentioned, he's done other stuff like Goodrich and McDonald's Story. So he's quite the actor. And for him to come to this point and be able to do a movie like this, and in a weird way, I was thinking like he's playing this movie out, and then you've got like a real actor like Bruce Willis who is actually going through this whole kind of situation, and
Yeah.
they're roughly the same age. It really makes you reflect on how the fickle fate of life, how it can fall either for or against you. And so I just wanted to mention that I think Michael Keaton said he's a top level actor for sure now. He's really on his game. It's funny, I find that a lot of actors actually, once they get past that leading man, got to romance the girl type of stage of their career and turn like more into the authority figure, father figures, that's when they really get to do some really good acting. And I think that's very much the same case for Michael Keaton. The second point I want to make is this whole eye for an eye type of mentality is one that I've always struggled with because it leads to such a slippery slope. Where do you draw the line? Is it okay just to kill rapists, murderers, and the child abusers? What about if you've got a personal grudge against somebody that throws stuff into your yard, or jaywalkers, or whatever, hookers? Like, where do you draw the line with that? That's such a slippery slope. And this movie does nothing to alleviate my concerns about that. And in some ways, it makes me more concerned because I think there could be an attitude of what he did in this movie and what his son did is okay. And I don't think that's okay. And it's a very slippery slope, as I mentioned. And it's like the laws have to apply to everybody, or otherwise it's going to lead to these situations that we're seeing in today's world. And that's probably more than this movie was intended to do. But I do think that it redeemed itself by the fact that the lead character doesn't even know that his plan worked. So that's why
Yeah.
I really liked it from that perspective.
I think one of the interesting points is when they meet at the diner and his son breaks his vegan fast that has ribs.
These ribs are so good.
I've been hungry for 8 years or whatever. He says, I was worried about becoming you. And he goes, and here we are.
Yep.
And I didn't want to be,
I'm not a murderer.
I'm not
And
a
he
murderer,
says, but you are.
but we are.
Yeah.
And
Which is another great point of how often do we say we don't want to end up like our parents, but blood is thicker than water.
yeah, absolutely.
I did want to end up like my mom. To be fair, I love my mom.
Oh,
But I
that's
have a
nice.
lot of traits of my dad, and that's the part of me I don't like.
Thank you guys both. This was so much fun. Like I said, it is not often a film surprises me. And there are times when I really like a film, but this was one I didn't expect so much. A good friend of my son's best friend's dad is going through dementia, and he saw this film after I recommended, and he called me and said, Papa J, just thank you so much for this gift. It stuck with him. So thank you guys for sharing. If someone wants to give us feedback and hear more from you, Lou, how can they?
They can do that at our YouTube channel, JKL Media Reviews. And Karen will give the email address because she's so good at remembering it as opposed to me, Jesse. You can also find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lou W. Sitzma. I also have my own YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, where I interview writers. And I also post the Babylon 5 entire series plus animated movie reviews that we did as a trio over there. And I also have my Stephen King podcasts, and it's been a little dormant lately, but Never Flinch, his latest book is coming out May 27th. So be sure to talk about that. And he also has The Life of Chuck and The Long Walk coming out this year. So yeah, just another typical quiet year for Stephen King. Any other author, that would be like their career high point. For King, it's just another year. So it's just another Tuesday. And other than that, yeah, looking forward to whatever we're going to do next. And I believe it is Karen's turn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
still
So,
thinking.
okay. And Karen, how about you?
Yeah, you can reach us at JKL Media Reviews at gmail.com. That's our email address. You can find me at Aleveria, Aleveria, on various social media platforms. And my blog is alliestuff.com.
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X. Jesse Jackson on Facebook, where I seem to be spending a lot of time arguing with people who don't agree with me on
Hey,
politics. But that's okay. I am glad to do it. You can hear me talking music on Set Listing Bruce. This is our 10th anniversary year.
Wow.
So we've got
crazy.
some fun things coming up. In fact, I'm asking, and so far no one has been willing to, as we're recording this, Bruce Springsteen is stepping up and saying a lot of things in his European tour about this current administration. And some of his Springsteen's fans who do support the current administration are not happy. And I've had an open invite say, hey, you want to come in and talk about this, why this bothers you? I
Awesome.
promise they're respectful. And so far, no one has said yes. But we will be back next week discussing something fun. Karen will always give us a good one to talk about.
I hope so.
Yes. Now I want to thank Lou and Karen. We do this every Sunday, whether anyone listens or not, because it is just a joy to spend time with two of my favorite people. So everyone, be safe, be kind. Tell us what you'd want us to talk about,
Sure.
and we'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
And see.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.